An adaptation of Annie sings and dances its way to third place, taking in just over $16 million at the weekend box office.
Need some help? What? Move.
Okay, that was actually very cool.
The final installment of the Night at the Museum franchise, Secret of the Tombs, gobbled up $17.3 million.
Fate. Will you follow me? One last time.
And the latest in the Middle-earth saga, The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, slays the competition with more than $56 million to finish in first place. Jason Gorber joins us, as always. Jason, we'll start with the big movie about the little people.
Yeah, The Hobbit. So you're going to like this film if you like the other films. I think that's fair enough to say. I actually really loved it. I think this is an incredible capper, not only to the last two Hobbit films, but it's also a perfect sort of puzzle piece that leads right into the Lord of the Rings films. Look, you have to take all of this with a certain grain of sand, a certain suspension of disbelief. This is Peter Jackson's way of doing the entire Middle-earth saga as one big six-film epic. A lot of purists for the book, the 36th book, were a little bit upset about that. But once you sort of give in to the fact that this is what he was doing, and he absolutely intends new audiences to start with the first Hobbit and go to the Academy Award-winning Return of the King, it all kind of makes sense. And this is a film which is all ending, which is all fun, is absolutely the sort of missing puzzle piece. I really think that when people watch these three Hobbit films as consecutive works, as crazy as that seems, it will all sort of come together. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got to see it multiple times, including with Peter Jackson when he did his one of his premieres here in Toronto. And it's just an exceptional work and sort of the end of a Middle-earth saga, which is pretty phenomenal.
Last week you went all Texas on us. You were down in Austin. You got to see that movie. What'd you think?
I got to see The Interview. And you know what? There's a whole lot of stuff going on about this film, but let's just talk about it as a film. How is it? It's okay. It's not amazing. It's not as good as some of the stuff that they did. It's not as bad as some people are making it out to be, like, oh, the crap film is getting all this drama. It's pretty good. It's satire. It's witty at times. It's silly at other times. And Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen have put it together, have done, I think, a little bit better with Neighbors that they wrote and sort of helped develop. Superbad, which they wrote. And This Is the End, which I think is amazing. I really love that movie. The Interview is good, and I think it deserves much more than to be a footnote in this sort of political drama that's playing out.
Now, there are theaters that have said, you know what, we're not showing the movie, so Sony has said, well, the theaters aren't going to show it, so we're pulling the movie. Did you feel safe watching the screening? Yeah,
I mean, I saw the screening with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg there. There was never an issue. This was Sunday night. All the death threats and all that stuff happened sort of the Monday and Tuesday afterwards. And look, let's be clear here. There's some very serious political things going on here, but there's also issues of litigation in the States. If the theaters were to do it and some idiot, not necessarily somebody associated with North Korea, but another idiot decided this was the opportunity to do something silly, there would be lawsuits aplenty in a pretty litigious area like the United States. I understand why the studio was reticent, but the studio put it on the theaters and said, if you want to show it, you can show it, but if you back out, so many backed out that the studio, Sony, decided, I guess we're not going to run this.
What kind of precedent does this set for some of the other studios, and would Seth Rogen have a problem now trusting Sony?
I don't know about Seth Rogen trusting Sony. I would think that he's sort of, with the whole hacking scandal and stuff like that, there's all kinds of trust issues for Sony now. But this is a terrible precedent. This is a terrible precedent in lots of ways, but it's a terrible precedent, as the president says, for documentaries, for news programs, for anybody that has a sort of a diaphanous threat like this, that they're then going to say, oh, look, I'm not going to touch this at all. Sony has been very clear saying that they continue to support this film and want this film to come out eventually, but that doesn't mean that necessarily they're going to green light, they're going to allow the making of the next film. And for that, I'm a little bit reticent. Again, you have smaller theaters like where I was at, the Alamo Drafthouse. They were going to show Team America, which is a film from 10 years ago. Paramount, the studio from that, said, no, you can't show it. So even films that are 10 years old are sort of being caught up in the whole drama here. We don't know enough as consumers, but we do know that this is a terrible precedent. There's many more things terrible about this story. But as film goers, this isn't such a good precedent. And for people like me, we're worried. worried about it.
Jason, people can follow you at Filmfest_CA on Twitter. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Scott.